Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're well, thank you for joining me again. Hope you're out. Got a good weekend ahead. Saturday, I've got a place to myself, so I thought I would pop out here and do this video. Well, one thing I am a great believer in is that people are entitled to a choice. You know, in anything they do in life, they're entitled to a choice. And that should be no different when it comes to elections and who they choose to govern us. That choice is very important. We're entitled to it. It goes back in law as far as the English Constitution. It's an inalienable right we have, and we should exercise it to its full extent every time the opportunity presents itself. At the end of the day, that's democracy after all. We have a massive problem that I want to go over in this video, and hence that's the title of this actual recording, this piece. And it's all about the number of people who literally, for some reason, don't bother. They're disenfranchised or something else is going on, and they choose not to come out and vote. And what you have results delivered in elections, as we've seen over the last, well, let's say 48 hours, based on a very small percentage of the population. And it's a pattern that continues throughout history, and it really disturbs me. Now, the British establishment has literally ground people into the dirt so much, and then you get this choice between Labour, Tories, etc., and they think, well, in the end, we're no better off with any of them, so why bother voting at all? And this is a situation we find ourselves in. I want to use Runcorn and Helsby as an example to try and illustrate what I'm getting at, and I hope you see where I'm coming from. But before I go on to that, I want to mention a video I put on Rumble. As you know, I am a big supporter of Graham Moore of the English Constitution Party, because my basic thought aligns with the premise of that party. Hence, I got behind him. And it's very apparent that unless you have hundreds of thousands of pounds in the bank, big backers, and all the rest of it, you really are fighting, a battle of David and Goliath when it comes to trying to get elected and get noticed and try and beat a system that's, in place to give us that binary choice. And nothing was more apparent than the result of what happened with Graham Moore. He put a very interesting post up. He stood not only in this election, but he compared it against another one from 9 years ago. And let's just say that the amount of votes he got in each one was very interesting indeed. And the odds of it happening like that in two different constituencies are astronomical. So go and have a look at that video on Rumble. Let me know what you think. Anyway, back to the plot. Runcorn and Helsby. It's very important to understand, first of all, the size of the electorate. How many people are eligible to vote? And I pulled this up. Registered electors, 71,955. So you might as well 72,000 people were eligible to vote. All right. And, just as an aside, Graham Moore actually put 45,000 leaflets out to be delivered, which weren't, but there's more of that on my Rumble channel. There's a couple of screen dumps here. You can see roughly in the country where Runcorn and Helsby is. If you're unaware, it's kind of up, Liverpool area kind of way. There it is there, Runcorn, Pochin and Helsby. Electorate, now that's of 70,950, that's of 2023. So bear that figure in mind, 70,950 as of 2023. Here's another diagram here, a little bit closer in. Basically, it's in Cheshire. You can see it there. Now, let's have a look at the results. And this is where it gets interesting. And I always like to break this down. Now, this is the results from 2024. And you can see there, Mike Ainsbury won the seat for Labour with 22,358 votes. And he got 52.9% of the vote. Now, if you have a look down at the bottom, you've got the interesting figures there. You got a 14,696 majority. The turnout was 42,235. So if you have a look at the registered electors or the registered electorate, shall we say, 71,955. So basically just under 60% of the electorate turned out. So you've got 40% missing. That always seems to be the magic figure, 40% missing. Why is that? What's stopping them to come out? So, you know, you have a look again, right? 52.9% of the vote on a 42,235 turnout. That's not 52.9% of the electorate. That's 52.9% of the turnout. So you have a great many people within that area. And this pattern is repeated all over the country, by the way, where you have 40% of people in an electorate that don't turn out to put their X on a piece of paper. That is the problem with the system. That's one of the main reasons why first past the post works all the time, because you've got a big section of the electorate that just doesn't bother to turn out. Let's have a look at the results now. This is from the Runcorn and Helsby by-election. You can see Graham Moore there, 50 votes. As I said, go and have a look at Rumble. So Sarah Pochin wins, 12,645 votes. Now, a majority of 6. It doesn't sound like a lot, but what you have to think, Ainsbury had a 14,000 majority. So she turned over that 14,000 majority, then got 6 more. So, you know, it's a hell of a victory. Now, I understand there was a recount. Originally, she won by 4 votes, and then all of a sudden 6. So there you go, Reform MP. What she does, how she does it, remains to be seen. You know my feelings, but that's not the subject of this video. It's facts and figures. So if you have a look down the bottom, turnout, 32,655. That's 46% of the electorate. So Sarah Pochin wins that seat on a 38% share, and only 46% of the electorate turned out. Compare that to last time, 58% of the electorate turned out. Ainsbury got half of them. So it's an even worse situation there. You know, this time round, 54% more or less didn't vote. Why didn't 54% vote? Where were they? What was the problem? I will go on about this until I'm blue in the face. We need, you know, people that are cheesed off with Labour, people that are cheesed off with Conservatives, and by God, people probably will end up getting cheesed off with Reform, need to understand that if they don't come out and do the necessary, then none of this is ever going to change. I hear people saying that, you know, well, what's the point? You're consenting to a system we don't want anything to do with. 2010, look what happened in 2010. They came out and they said, well, the British public have spoken. And that was one of the lowest turnouts in history. And look how that ended up. If you don't want to vote for any of them, then come out in your droves. I do not consent. Ashby versus White, 1703. Otherwise, come out, lend your voice. You have the freedom movement, you have the freemen of the land and everything else telling you otherwise. But, you know, just to enforce it even more, that's the number of registered electors, 71,955. And look down the bottom there, turnout, 32,000. So you may as well say half were missing. Half didn't want to have a say. Now, I've used Runcorn and Helsby, as I said, as a basis of this, but that pattern repeats in every constituency throughout the entire country. And all the while it does, we're going to be stuck with this charade. And that's one thing that we can do between now and 2029 is encourage more people to get out there and become politically engaged. Otherwise, we're never going to save it. We are never going to save it. Let me know what you think. I've said my piece, and I'll probably say it a few times more. I'll try and get on with another video at some point today. Please hit the like button on this, share it, because, you know, the sentiment is important. It really is. We're on 143,000 subscribers now. We're just past that today. I appreciate your support very much. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. And as always, I look forward to talking to you soon. Toodaloo.